Cheers. Cheers once again, guys, and welcome back to my channel. So today we are going to talk about one of the very important things that I use in my scale modeling, and that is a workbench. So I recently purchased this workbench about 2 weeks back, and I had posted a picture of it on one of the scale modelers group that I am part of. And I received many requests from modelers asking me to show them my entire setup and how I organize my workbench. So without further ado, let's get into it. So there are certain things on this workbench which came as they are, and there are certain things which I had gotten added later on. So what you see right now is a very, very clean workbench. As you can see, it's all very clear, and this is how I like my workbench to be. I cannot have a messy workbench, and I've had that habit of having a clean workbench or a clean study desk ever since I've been in school and college. Well, that's the way I used to keep myself organized, and that's the way that I still work. So if you guys remember, the last workbench that I had was about 3 feet in length by 1.5 feet, so roughly till about this point in width. At least a quarter of that workbench was occupied by a set of 6 pull-out drawers. Stored most of my stuff in there, and if you know everything else, like my paint brushes, my Sharpies, my cutting tools, everything else, including a table lamp, used to be right on top of the bench. So my effective working space was just about the size of an A4 sheet, so this entire bench used to be cluttered. So I wanted slightly more space, especially because I am currently working on a 32nd scale model, and that A4 size of working space wasn't really a suitable space to work on. Of course, I have done most of my work in the last 5 or 6 years on that workbench, so that workbench was very useful. But now I wanted more space, and the biggest thing is I wanted it all to be clean and organized. So here is a look at my latest workbench, and as you can see, it's got a lot of storage out here. It's got this cupboard on the top, followed by storage shelf here, and this storage shelf is something that I got custom made. The size of this workbench is 3 feet by 2.25 feet, and it's also got this section of the table that you can pull out, and it increases the overall size of the table on the right side, and you can use it to keep some stuff on it while you're working, but usually it's in this closed configuration. You might be wondering where my 32nd scale Hawker Tempest is. So right there you see the box. That is the Hawker Tempest box, and it's currently open. And here's the another model that I'm working on, which is the MiG-21 Type 96. And let me quickly give you an overview of what I have. So most of the stuff you see in my workbench is now entirely sorted. So we have storage, and we have storage inside storage. So everything is now sorted in a storage fashion. So that's the top drawer, and moving down, then I've got my main drawer, which is my actual working drawer. If I pull this out, you can see all the stuff that I actually need while I am working. So for example, but everything inside this little tiffin box here is all the cutting tools that I require while I am assembling a model. And I've got my sanding sticks here, I've got my holding items here, and I've got all the airbrush stuff in here. So most of this stuff is now sorted in this fashion, and these are some plastic boxes that I purchased off Amazon. They're quite handy. So everything is currently sorted, and I'll show you the way I sorted them. So that's the main work desk drawer, if you will. So that's one. The other one is a smaller drawer right next to it, which is here. It's got some microfiber cloths, one empty bottle. Of course, that's a spare bottle. It's got my gloves in there. Of course, here are my spares, the 148 scale pilots, some 64 scale figurines as well, and there's my safety glasses. This cupboard at the bottom. This has my compressor. It's got a lot of spares and a lot of other boxes. So that's how basically I've organized my workbench. And now let me quickly give you an overview of how I have organized it. So if I open this up, top left side, this is my glue gun and with the glue sticks. So this is a kind of a storage tray, and this comes in very handy. And I've got multiple of these storage trays. So this is one, and there's another size. So technically, it comes in one big one, and there are at least 8 of them. So 2 big ones and 6 of these smaller ones or thinner ones. So everything gets sorted inside that. Here's the tissue paper. Now all the stuff that you see here in the top shelf is stuff that I will use very sparingly. So all that stuff goes here, so I don't have to time and again open my drawer. Stuff that I use not so sparingly, but let's say, especially like the paints, only when I'm painting. So all this stuff is used only when I'm painting. For example, you see the Sharpies, you see some cleaning items there, you see some glue there, you see empty glass bottle. I use this to keep water so that I can rinse my brushes. And here's another kind of tray that I use. Now earlier I used to have these brushes inside this, and this cup used to actually be right out there on the table right in front. But now I have sorted them out. It's easier to get to a brush, if they're inside like this, rather than, having to struggle through in that particular cup. Now that cup has, you can see some old toothbrushes. It's got some clay molding items. Most of the stuff that you see in here is stuff that I will pull out very rarely or need very rarely. See, I've got more storage boxes. These boxes, for example, these are big lock boxes, plastic lock boxes. I got these from the local market. This one costed me just about 40 rupees, and it holds all my Fevicryl paints in there. So there are about 38 of those Fevicryl paints in there. There's a similar box which I have for the smaller paints, like the Humbrol ones, the oil paint tubes, and the Camlin paint tubes. So that's a thinner box, and you see that I have everything labeled, and I like to keep things sorted and labeled. So this is Humbrol and Camlin plus oil paints, everything in here. This is my Fevicryl paints. Of course, I did not need a label for this because this is easily recognizable with one of those paints in there. Of course, this is paint brushes. Then you have some, I've got baking powder, I got some glue out here. And back there you see the varnishes, the thinners that I use. Everything is back there because these are not used very often, and only when I use them is when I can take them out. Here is my soft pastels out here, and I was talking about that storage tray. So one of those storage trays is like this. What you see in here is a soldering wire. There's a drill bit tightener, and of course those are weights, clay weights. I don't throw off unused clay. I use them as clay weights inside my scale models. Then I've got these two mugs that I used to use earlier. Earlier they were used for a different purpose. I've already shown them to you. So these are holding the clay molding tools and some old toothbrushes, whereas this particular mug holds all my Sharpies and markers. This is a custom built shelf. I just wanted it for the purpose of keeping stuff, like for example when I'm working on a model, smaller bits and pieces that need to be assembled later stage during the assembly phase. I keep them inside one tray and just keep the tray out here. So net everything is clean. Now this is my A2 size cutting mat, and on top of this I have my A4 size cutting mat, and I've got a few papers beneath it. Those papers come in very handy, especially when I'm spraying the paint, so that these mats, they don't get dirty. So I don't throw away the instruction sheets. For this very purpose, I use older instruction sheets and just lay them down under the model that I'm working on, and I spray the paint on the model. So for example, right now you see that I've sprayed cockpit grille. This is a DIY tube. I assembled it myself and connected the wires, and this is the amount of light it throws, enough to work on a workbench. And now you can see how beautifully the workbench is lit up. And of course, let's get to the main work model here. So beginning from here, now when I'm assembling the model, this is the box that is out all the time while the assembly phase is going on. So nothing else except this, everything else is clean. Now this has the basic cutting tools that I require. So of course you can see blue tack here. So I put it on top of this because at times, you know, you need blue tack to hold bits and pieces while you're painting them. For example, on this, so everything is mounted on them with blue tack. So blue tack is very important when you are assembling, hence blue tack is right there on top. And then you have, of course, your cutters or nippers. You've got your X-Acto knife, plus you've got a few tweezers that you use more often while you're assembling stuff. You also got a set of nose pliers which you can use, set of scissors there, and you've got some thick files, wood files. So all this is basic cutting material that you need when you are assembling a model. So everything else fits inside this box. But to keep the table clean, once I'm done, I just open it, put the box back, and there you have a clean table again. Moving on to the next tray, and I can show you how this looks. So this has all the sanding tools, some drill bits. It's got the plastic cutter in there, all these sanding files here. Another smaller tray. This only has the masking tape in here. And then you've got a bigger tray in here. This has got the toothpicks, all the blue tack, and the Faber-Castell tacket, and you've got some drill bits in there. Also got some Teflon tape. I don't know why I have that, but again, you know, ease of use, easy to get to it if you have it right here. So cutting, sanding, because you keep using these things alternatively, so you know they're right there in my reach. Moving on, these are some holding items. For example, this is a contraption I created with a toothbrush and a clip, again, to hold items and spray paint on them from a distance. So there are a couple of those things. These are some clay molding tools, as I just showed you there. These are clay molding tools that I had purchased some time back, but I never used them. I can just hold it like this, and from a distance I can spray the paint, etc. So my hands don't get all painted up. The only use I have for them is to mount some parts to spray paint them. Anyway, so they were quite cheap. I don't know, I got them for about 120 rupees, so very cheap, but this is what I am using them for. I've got a little geometry box here, which of course I am using, and here I have some sanding papers. So various grits of sandpapers, starting from the coarsest, which is 220, and I have the markings on the sandpaper. I always mark them before I cut them out. So I've got 220, I've got 1200 for smoothing, I've got 2000, 3000, and 2,500. And then I've got spare tweezers. I've got a steel tweezer, I've got a compass, and if you've seen the bases that I create, the Indian Air Force roundels, I use the compass to mark the roundels on the base. Of course, a few pencils, these come in handy at times. So all of this in this geometry box fits there right at the back, because this is not used very often. And here I have my airbrush items. So again, there is one holder, and you can see I've got stuff in there like NC thinner, I've got IPA, I've got Future, I've got a dishwasher, and I've got other stuff like lube oil, I've got vinegar, and I've got this two paints that I received in one of the models that I bought from Poland. I've never used them, so they're just lying there spare. So that's that. Here are my airbrushes in the bigger tray that you see here. Airbrushes. Here's the ABC or airbrush cleaner, and I've got certain other stuff like droppers, airbrush cleaning wires down there, and I've got droppers in here, cotton Q-tips and stuff like that. Now this particular thing, of course this was Play-Doh that my daughter used to use. I have it empty at the moment, there's nothing inside it, but it's got a pretty good size and I use it to store future, and I dip the canopies inside this because there's enough space to dip a big 48 scale canopy as well inside it when I'm working on gloss coating the canopy. Now moving on to some other storage items, and I can show you a few things here. So these sorts of ice cream boxes, this is a half-liter ice cream box. I am very fond of ice cream. Of course I don't eat the chocolate ones. I am fond of vanilla and pineapple ones only, but these probably my wife would have had some chocolate ones, or my daughter would have had. But these half-liter storage boxes come in very handy, and I've got quite a few of them. Here's another circular one. This has some electrical stuff in there. Here we are. This is the square one. Again, a half-liter box, and here you can see I have marked it clips and bottle caps. So clips to hold stuff, and bottle caps, as you can see, I don't throw away bottle caps. I keep them just to sometimes when I'm working with glue or I don't need too much paint, I just use these bottle caps. They come in very handy. You don't need to dirty an extra utensil for using just a small amount of glue or color. So these bottle caps are very handy. So that stores all the bottle caps and clips. And here is canopy, masking tape and hypothermic needles right there inside. So all of that stuff in there. Plus I've got these square boxes. Now this is weapons spares. As you can see, it's written there. So all the spares that I've collected over the years of modeling, the spare weapons are all in this box. I have another spares box, which is the usual spares, aircraft parts spares. So all of them inside this chocolate box. Everything is fit in there. And then I have these, empty bottles in there. Spare empty bottles. They come in handy whenever I want to use them. I've got some steel wool and Scotch Brite for cleaning. Steel wool also for cleaning, of course not in my plastic models, but these I use for my die cast modifications. As you're aware that I do a lot of die cast modifications as well, so steel wool comes in handy for cleaning those. So when I'm not working on the model, the good part about this table is I just pick up all that stuff, put it up here inside these boxes, and that gives me enough space out here. I just put my office laptop there and start working. So dual use of that table. Anyway, that covers the overview of my workbench. Do comment and let me know how you like my setup. Please like, subscribe, and I'll see you again in the next video. Bye bye, take care. Cheers once again.